That's it. Prosecutors have laid out their case, and soon Diddy's fate will be in the hands of the jury. In the last video, we went over RICO, but let's talk about Diddy's other charges, including sex trafficking and transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, the transportation charge is pretty cut and dry because prosecutors have shown numerous documents, including flight records, text exchange, and emails showing Diddy's staff and sometimes Jane and Cassie arranging travel for male escorts. But one of the more serious charges is sex trafficking, so let's break that down. So the federal law applies to anyone who knowingly recruits, transports, or profits from someone engaging in a sex act in exchange for money or anything of value. It particularly talks about children, but also adult victims who were forced, defrauded, or coerced into sex acts. And the penalty is steep, a minimum of 10 years in prison. And this applies to Diddy because for weeks now, prosecutors have set out to prove that both Cassie and Jane were forced or coerced into freak-offs with male entertainers for Diddy's sexual pleasure. Let's start with Cassie because that was the prosecutor's star witness, and she gave the most compelling testimony. She talked about being introduced to freak-offs a year into their relationship. She was 20-something at the time, an artist signed to Bad Boy in a relationship with Diddy who was 17 years her senior. She quickly realized that she didn't want to do it, but anytime she pushed back, she testified that her career, her physical safety, and her reputation were at risk. She detailed severe beatings at the hands of Diddy, including the one we saw in that hotel attack video that we learned in court was allegedly after a freak-off. She also set the stage with how ritualistic these freak-offs were. It would almost always be held at a hotel, involve a male entertainer, preferably a black man. They would also receive thousands of dollars after the exchange was done. Then there would be lots and lots of baby oil, candle wax, red lights, and a crazy cleanup process. Cassie also testified that almost always she was under the influence of drugs supplied by Diddy. Diddy would be on the sidelines, watching, directing, and filming, and then Cassie testified that he would use those tapes as blackmail and threaten to release them when she didn't do what he wanted. And Jane testified to almost the exact same thing, but instead of threatening to stall her career, he would threaten to stop paying her rent, leaving her without housing. All the while, prosecutors introduced text messages on text messages showing both Cassie and Jane expressing how discontent they were engaging in these freak-offs, with Cassie asking to reschedule several times because she kept getting reoccurring UTIs. Jane once texting Diddy a bloody tampon to show him that she couldn't engage in a freak-off. But both women testified that that did little to stop Diddy's persistence. With Jane once texting, "I don't feel human in those rooms. I feel like a whore." She also said, "I'm not a porn star. I'm not an animal." Prosecutors set out to prove that the coercion was emotional, physical, and psychological. It was mixed with fear of retaliation and also heavy drug use. And key here is that prosecutors show that it didn't happen in just one place. It happened in New York, LA, Miami, and abroad. And throughout the trial, we saw Diddy's defense team push back through the opening statements and also cross-examination, explaining that the abuse was domestic violence and that this was a relationship that was